Let's get on with the day's news. Our top story today, investigators are struggling to come up with a motive for Sunday's mass shooting in Las Vegas. On Wednesday, the FBI interviewed the girlfriend of gunman Stephen Paddock. Through her lawyer, Mary Lou Danley said she had no idea he was planning a massacre. She says she thought he was breaking up with her because he urged her to visit her family in the Philippines a couple of weeks ago and send her money to buy a house. Locally, a Bozeman woman who survived the attack is home from Las Vegas. Jolene Barkas says in the days following the massacre, she's still on edge.
We went to the mall at lunch, and I didn't, during Saturday morning too, or Monday morning, I'd be texting my husband. I was like, I can't stop crying. And he's like, you're coming down from your adrenaline. He's like, this is normal. And I was like, okay. So all day I'd be like, now this is happening. He's like, this is normal. This is you coming out of it. Like going to the mall, like I was hypersensitive. Like when I came in, because I was like, I just want to get back to my normal schedule. Like I just want to go to work and get through the day. Like I got in here and I was shaking and I was nauseous and I was like, I don't know if I can make it all day.
Also making this morning's headlines, 3 Green Beret soldiers were killed and 2 other American soldiers were hurt in northeastern Africa on Wednesday. They were ambushed while on patrol. A group affiliated with Al-Qaeda is suspected to be behind the attack. Now we go to Crow Agency, where a suspect is in custody after allegedly vandalizing a water treatment plant. Authorities are trying to figure out how much chlorine is in the water after the vandal damaged canisters sometime between midnight and 8 o'clock Wednesday morning. Residents are advised not to drink the water or have any skin contact with water. This includes tap water and water from the Little Bighorn River. Officials also say do not boil the water and only use bottled water until further notice. A tribal spokesman says a recent government shutdown and work furloughs may be why the suspect allegedly committed the crime.
I don't think that it should have resulted in what might actually be considered an act of terrorism. It was a criminal act, and an individual had gone into the treatment facility and damaged the area and also compromised the water. It hasn't been determined whether or not the chlorine has been poured into the tanks that are at the water treatment plant or into the river.
Jared Stewart says it may be 24 to 48 hours before tests come back from Helena. He also said because of the damage, drinking water will not be back online until the equipment is repaired or replaced. Meanwhile, in Laurel, police and school officials are investigating an incident where a child brought a gun on school grounds this week. In a letter sent to parents on Wednesday, Laurel Superintendent Linda Filpula explained the child had the gun on and off Laurel Middle School property on Tuesday afternoon. No students were injured in the incident, but the investigation is ongoing. The superintendent's email did not indicate whether the child was a Laurel Middle School student, and she said her email was sent to provide accurate information about the incident. The superintendent points out that the safety of students is of the utmost importance, and she wants to make everyone aware of the severity of the situation. She also asked parents for patience as the investigation continues. Turning now to court news, the second suspect accused of beating and dismembering a man at a Billings apartment in 2015 now admits his involvement in the murder. 36-year-old Patrick Stanzover-Bull pleaded guilty Monday in Yellowstone County Justice Court to felony tampering with evidence and misdemeanor assault. His relative, Carrie Stanzover-Bull, pleaded guilty in July to negligent homicide for the murder of her 41-year-old boyfriend, Jeffrey Hewitt. Witnesses told investigators Hewitt was badly beaten by the 2 suspects and several others at the Ponderosa Apartments. That's where the victim died days after the assault. Hewitt's body was then dismembered and beheaded. Patrick Stanzover-Bull admits he helped destroy the body and throw the remains in a burn pile in Pryor. The victim's head was never found. Prosecutors tell us they will recommend the longest sentence possible for Patrick Stanzover-Bull, and Carrie Stanzover-Bull. Prosecutors will recommend 40 years in prison for her. On to state news. Montana's Finance Committee will meet later today and make recommendations on how to proceed with a $227 million budget crisis. During a hearing on Wednesday, most of those who testified said lawmakers need to do something besides just cut spending and to balance the budget. Democratic Governor Steve Bullock has the authority to solve the problem by cutting budgets up to 10% in most state agencies. But during Wednesday's testimony, scores of citizens said the cuts would severely harm harm human services and the social safety net that many people rely on. Budget Director Dan Villa says the current legislature needs to consider a solution that includes both spending cuts and taxes. Others were more blunt, like Bonnie Kelly of Missoula, who said she relies on personal assistant care from the state to live her life. She said lawmakers should meet in a special session to raise revenue to help cover the budget shortfall.
The proposals that I put forward complied with the law, but they are horrendous options. They are awful. I think that we owe it to ourselves and to Montanans to have a conversation about what a permanent fix looks like, because I would venture to guess that there is not a single person sitting around this table today that is supportive of the entire 9.571% reduction. There is a better way, and I think we are on the right track to figuring it out.
For the legislatures, all of you guys, to come together for a special session and come up with a balanced budget that works for all Montanans. A budget that is not solely based on cuts, but also revenues.
The budget crisis is a result of a drop in state revenue and this summer's huge firefighting costs. Meanwhile, medical marijuana sales will add up to new tax revenue for the state. Montana's Medical Marijuana Act, passed by the 2017 legislature, creates a tax on the gross sales from providers of medical marijuana products. Right now, the tax is 4% through the period ending on June 30th, and it will be 2% in subsequent years. But the state is unsure how much it will receive since this is the first time collecting the tax. They don't know the quantity that's been sold or the number of patients. So far, a dozen providers have filed and paid. Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke is now under 2 investigations by federal watchdogs. The latest probe stems from questions concerning a $12,000 private flight Zinke took from Vegas to Montana. The Interior Department's Inspector General is now looking at Zinke's meeting with the Vegas Golden Knights hockey team. Democratic House members say it appears as though Secretary Zinke and his staff could have taken a commercial flight from Las Vegas to Montana if he did not meet with the hockey team. The NHL team is owned by Bill Foley, a billionaire businessman. FEC filings show Foley was a major donor to Zinke's first congressional campaign. Foley is also the board chairman of Fidelity National Financial, which donated more than $150,000 to Zinke between 2013 and 2018. Our last story for the morning: after 4 years, the Montana Women's Prison warden will retire this Friday. Citing the recent death of her husband, Warden Joan Daly Shinners says she wants to spend more time with family and explore new directions. Warden Daly took the job in 2013, replacing former warden Joe Acton in the midst of a personnel controversy. Daly says the loss of her husband has compelled her to find a new mission in life. The prison communications officer tells us a nationwide search is underway for a new leader. While the search is underway, Associate Warden Bob Paul will serve as interim warden. Paul has worked at the prison for 12 years. The prison warden is responsible for 200 female inmates and 92 staff members.